Welcome back to Get Your House in Order, the podcast where we dig deep into intentional living, courageous choices, and what it really takes to align your life, your leadership, and your legacy. Today, I'm joined by Michele, founder of key2unlock.com, a dynamic coach, speaker, and transformation catalyst who's on a mission to help people unlock their full potential. And doing that by reconnecting with their core identity. Whether you're going through change or you're considering change, or you're craving clarity or looking for meaning in your life or work, this is a conversation that I've been really looking forward to having because we work in parallel universes, but we overlap a lot. We're hoping that this conversation will meet you exactly where you are. Michele, welcome. I'm so glad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Elke.
So Michele, tell me your story. Let's start with that. What led you to create Key to Unlock? What's the personal experience that made you realize that helping reconnect others with their identity was your calling? Tell me more.
No, I'll give you the short version. Basically, I was brought up in a, middle-class family. My parents' expectations of me were go to college, get a degree, get married, buy a house, have 1.3 children, and live happily ever after. And in 1997, I discovered that there was so much more. That if I wrote a new outcome, if I set higher goals, this whole world opened up to me. And how it parallels to what you do is, my early 20s, I just wanted to be fit and sexy. So I was learning how to eat right. I was learning how to exercise, and I got really good at that. And I was learning about emotional intelligence and relationships, and I got really good at that. Then spirituality. And the one area I kept ignoring was money because it was uncomfortable. And once I started getting good at these other areas, that little money kept looking at me. What are you going to do about this? I'm still over here. You're not paying attention to me. So I had to look at it and say, what am I doing with my money? I'm writing my outcome for my health, for my relationships, but I'm not maybe writing my outcome as clearly and as well defined as I could around my story around money.
Yeah. And no decision is a decision. Right.
So, and I preempted the thing. So what got me so excited when I learned all these things that I had control, then I wanted to share them with others, which is why I started my own business in 2000.
So helping people write their own story, not what they were told. So the idea of unlocking suggests that something powerful is already there and it's just hidden. So what are some of the most common things people don't see in themselves when they start doing this work?
The biggest thing I see, most of us have been disconnected from our inner wisdom. As soon as we get to school, we're taught to, this is the answer. And, even our parents, do what your parents want, do what your teachers want. We're literally led away from our own internal guidance. So the biggest thing when I work with people is they want you to give them the answers. And if you think of anyone who's ever been on a diet or tried to lose weight, they want to know, how many almonds can I eat at 11 o'clock? And how many minutes do I have to be in my target heart rate? And for me, I want them to know that that's in you. If you sit with a plate of food and not do anything else and listen to your body will tell you when it's done. So the same thing with my clients, it's unlocking what's already there. And I love the Greeks have a word, I think it's Greek, it's entelechy. And it basically says, just like, the seed of an oak tree or mustard seed, all the intelligence it's in that little seed. Each of us has all these fabulous paths and inside us, but we haven't unlocked them yet because we're usually too busy doing what we think other people want us to do or what we're supposed to do.
So you often work with people who are at some kind of pivot point. What does it look like when someone's house, metaphorically speaking, is out of order?
Yeah, I always tell people, if you ask yourself at the end of an hour, at the end of a day, how am I feeling and am I happy with my results? If you're not feeling pretty satisfied, I'm not saying jumping for joy, just satisfied, content. If you're not feeling content and happy with, satisfied with your results, then you have work to do. And we all have work to do. But when you start to tend to your own guidance and what your own wants and needs are, you have more days that you go, that was a good day. You have more good days than not. So it's really almost leading people back to themselves. It's kind of like that funny metaphor where you have to go away to be with yourself, right? You have to go on leave town to be alone with yourself, but you're always with yourself. You're just not tuned in.
And you're probably silencing yourself, right? Because you're busy listening to everything else.
Silencing not only what other people want from you, but those two, I call them the two voices, right? The inner critic and the inner coach. I've named mine. Grace is my inner coach, and she's lovely and she loves me and she thinks I'm wonderful. And Wanda is a bitch, and she's mean and nasty, and she like rakes on me, and so you have these voices, and which one are you listening to? Even the voices of experts, even my voice. I always say, don't do what I say. You try it on, and then you be the judge. Does it work for you?
So it's our personal journey, and I find that so many of us, and myself, my clients, my friends, my community, everywhere, we get caught up in roles and titles and responsibilities. So how do you help people reconnect with who they are beyond the labels, beyond the lawyer, beyond the banker?
Yeah, I did a meditation this morning, and the question that was, "Who am I? Who am I?" Right? It's you could if you keep digging deep enough, right, you get past the labels. But it is really, to me, connecting head to heart to gut. So most of us have been taught to live from the neck up. What do you think? What do you think? And I'm like, no. What do you think? And what do you feel? And then how does that resonate in your gut? And when you really align those three things, that's powerful. That's powerful magic, because it's easy to say, I'm successful. I could say it, but if I don't feel it, like it's possible, and my gut is like, yeah, no, you're not. So I'm getting better every day. Oh, my head resonates, my heart resonates, and my gut. I'm getting better every day. I'm focused. I'm moving in the right direction. So it's really lining up those things until you get momentum. And when the momentum gets going, that's where the fun and the success comes.
And I think it's so important, and unfortunately so underused, to sit down and think. If I have to be clear, not that I'm into sexism, but I find particularly women, we've been put the chip in of, break the glass ceiling and lean in. And that's fine. I mean, you can grow an incredibly strong career, but you don't have to lose yourself. Because I have worked with we have all sorts of clients, but female lawyers that have been in practice and they've gone through war, and I know what it is to be in the boardroom and how much louder you have to talk to be heard, and how frustrating it can get. But when they're approaching retirement years and you talk to them about when we're doing their plans and we're trying to figure out, how much do you have? Where are you headed? How do you want to live? What's important to you? What meaning do you want to give to your wealth? Tell me about your family. What are the dynamics? All these things. When you strip the title, the professional title of the successful fill in the blank, whatever you want to call, the fear is real, because they do not know who they are if they're not their profession.
Yeah, there's a great quote I heard years ago, and it always resonated in me. It was like, if you are what you do, when you don't, you're not. So it's also, to me, to anyone listening, it's really being more well-rounded. So I wrote a book called Happiness is a Habit, and it was about habits mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And now I'm adding financially, but it's, what habits and hobbies and things you have in your life, so you're not just this role. So that when it's time for retirement, right, you have other interests, you have other hobbies, you have things that are exciting you for this next chapter versus, the usual stuff people do. So I think the inner work, and the beauty of the inner work is it doesn't have to be difficult or long. It could be, all my clients have a journal. You need a journal, you need a subscription to audible.com. So it's, journaling about who you are in the morning, journaling about what your outcomes you want, then feeding yourself something that inspires, motivates, or educates you on a regular basis, whether it be a podcast like this, a book, but something that is nourishing you versus just entertaining you. There's a big difference. And you get to know who you are in that.
And so clearly journaling and reading, those separate time and make them yours. So what are other tools or frameworks you use to help people identify their patterns or their blocks or their blind spots?
It's also that to really tune into feelings. And again, we've been taught not to feel. I'm of the generation that said, leave your feelings in the car and just come do your job. So emotions have intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence. So the things that you liked when you were 12 are probably the things you still like as an adult, might be something, a different form. So paying attention to the things that get you feeling good, and then asking, I would say to my clients, what are the things that make you feel good? And they might say, like, name 10 things. Some people can't even name 10 things anymore because they're so buried in work and kids and life. But if you can name 10 things and then look at your calendar and say, when's the last time I did those 10 things? And that's the caveat. People don't realize that when you do step back and take a break and let yourself be creative or lost in painting or reading or just hiking in the woods, your brain, oh my gosh, it relaxes. And then brilliant ideas drop in because you're not in this gotta go, gotta achieve. And so I call it the difference between sweat equity and alignment equity. So when you're really aligned, you don't have to be feeling wrung out at the end of the day. And, first of all, women, we should help each other, right? Just get over that. Like, why are we trying to do everything? It's impossible. Everybody needs a wife. I wish I had a wife, right? So, what can we do for each other and on your own?
Yeah, and I also try to teach my sons, right, to because otherwise, I all this. My opinion might not be the popular one, but it doesn't matter how many mandated charts and quotas come from up top. If we don't start at home teaching our kids, equality will never be achieved. Because women are quintessentially powerful at not asking for help. The ones that are in the alpha jobs, and so we can do it all. We can do it all, or okay, I'll just do it faster and they'll get it done instead of asking for help, right? But then you're discounting the fact that other people can help you and they may want to help you.
Yeah, I'd love to know what you're sharing with your sons and how old they are.
I was almost 18. Just 16, and my daughter's 14. They're obviously they eat the same stuff, they sleep in the same house, and they're very different.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm not trying to tell them what to do, but by role modeling, I'm hoping that they see that it's okay, right?
Yeah.
And they'll pick up their journey and they'll run with it, and then they'll do whatever they have to do. Everybody writes their own story. So I'm hoping that they see that, women can ask for help. And if she chooses to have a professional career, which I think that's a path everybody in this family is taking, you can ask for help and your spouse can help you, and the other way around.
And modeling it is what you're doing, so, modeling the different roles and having the conversations. I see, I used to teach diversity and inclusion, back in the day. I taught it for many years in factories across the country. And just having the conversations that when someone's in a situation where they're in a meeting and they see a woman isn't speaking up, but she has a lot of knowledge, where they could, we need our advocates to say, Elke, what do you think? You had a good idea the other day to, pull us forward. When a woman speaks up at a meeting, for another woman to back her up. I would say, if you're in the room with more than one woman, or there's only a few women, right? It's mostly men, and a woman floats an idea, find some way to align, back up, ask a good question versus, letting it fall flat on the floor. So really, there is a fallacy, and this has been proven that women are backstabbing, and there are women help women if you're with the right women. So It's really building that tribe of women that are going to cheer you on, help you. And it makes all the difference in the world in your own growth. And then they, I look at my circle, my tribe of women, oh my God, they're killing it. So they pull me up, right? Where sometimes I'm pulling, sometimes they're pulling, but it's very inspiring.
And I think that's the magic, right? Surrounding yourself with the right people, and it goes back to, does it feel right? Are these people on my team, or are they against me? It's and so on. And I would say some of my biggest ambassadors or advocates have been men too. So
Oh
I don't.
yeah.
So it's not the he against she war. I don't think that
No.
gets us anywhere. But it's really up to you to pick who you surround yourself with. In your experience, when people approach you, or what's the turning point for most people? When is it that they go from being stuck to making the phone call and say, Michelle, help, I'm ready to do the work?
It's a couple of reasons. So I work in corporations. So um, often it's, the boss or manager saying, this person is doing really good in this skill set, but they need help over here. So
Mm-hmm.
they might be capping out in their career because they need some new skills, some emotional intelligence, some presentation skills, some decisiveness. A lot of times that's the one thing that's missing as people rise up in a corporation. They're really good at doing their job, but then they get a leadership position and they're still doing everything and they're not being very decisive and concrete. So a lot of times it's a tap on the shoulder by, from your manager who cares about you, who says, I want to help you. I work in a lot of corporations now where word of mouth, Michelle's on site. I come once a month to certain areas, certain sites, and they just go, can I have coaching? So that's been really wonderful to see. I always say I work with the believers in corporations. I work with people that care about people and results.
Mm-hmm.
So they get results through people. So a lot of times it could just be, an asking. And sometimes in some companies, 2 or 3 companies, I'm what you call a coach on call. So they kind of put me on a retainer for the year. And then anytime one of the leadership team needs to make a decision that has to do with emotional intelligence, positive psychology, communication skills, conflict, they could text me and say, can we get on a call right now? And I always squeeze them in, usually sometimes during the day, and we might have a 15-minute conversation. It might be an hour, but just you need that like almost board of directors to just make sure I'm not making decisions for them, but it's the affirmation that they're making the right decision.
And we do the same. We don't tell people what to do. We ask them, what is it that you want to do? And we'll help you get there. But they need to hear themselves first to see if what they're saying makes sense to what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
And you
so
often
important.
talk about the power of language and self-permission. Can you share an example of how a simple mindset shift or a language shift can create a breakthrough?
Yeah. So when it comes to anything, every subject is 2 subjects. So you could say, I'm not getting promotions. Nobody's promoting me. Or you could say, I haven't gotten a promotion yet, but I'm working on my skills to get better. So it's really what I really want people to do is focus on what they want, not on what they don't want. And we're all really good at focusing on what we don't want. We're really good at telling you what we don't want, what we don't like, who's doing it wrong. When I'm like, okay, well, what do you want? What do you want? What are you advocating for yourself? So, and then realizing that so much of this work is perspective. I'm really good at what I call the optimistic spin and writing the outcome. I don't care if you just got laid off. I don't care if you just had it out with somebody in a meeting. I don't care if you just lost somebody in your life. You still get to write the outcome. So it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean it's not painful. But once you go through those stages of grief, you can move through them and write the outcome of the victor versus the victim. And that's really where people start to get it. Oh, I have a choice. So many people haven't been taught that they even have a choice.
Yeah, and you probably deal with people who are overachievers but unfulfilled. What's usually missing there?
And there's the funny thing that comes to mind when people tell me something's missing in my life and I look at their calendar, I'm like, it's you. You're missing from your own life because you didn't schedule you in. So it's really, our life is measured in moments of joy, not in, things we checked off our list. So it's really encouraging. And I was very blessed to have a fabulous mentor, boss, who's now one of my best friends. But back in the day, she was my boss. And she would look at my calendar and say, Michelle, you're training X amount of days in a row. When are you taking a day off? Don't carry over your vacation day. Take a break. all these things that we don't do for each other anymore. Simply going outside on a beautiful sunny day and eating lunch, under the sun or whatever, and under the tree. So I lost the question, but the answer is, really being encouraging.
Yeah, overachievers and underfulfilled.
Yeah, because the fulfillment comes from these I call them micro moments of happiness and joy. And we're very success oriented these days. We're very achievement oriented versus joy oriented. And when you're too achievement oriented, then that's why we're all jumping out of airplanes and running these triathlons. And because we need a trophy at the end, or we need everything doesn't need a trophy or a certificate or a million likes. It's a simplicity. So the overachievers, to me, is helping them find their way back to themselves and their true heart.
So this show is all, we're trying to come at it from different perspective to see what resonates with people who listen to it, right? But ultimately, it's about living with intention and getting your emotional, your financial, your relational house in order. From your perspective, where should someone start if they feel they're off track?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing I always tell people is to start so small that you can't fail. Pick the simplest thing that you like to do, whether, you could read 2 pages of a book. You could take a walk around the block. You could, if you're not eating healthy, you can eat an apple a day. I want you to make your little your shift so easy, right? Because I talk about habits. Habits require no energy. We do them without thinking. So if all you did, to everyone listening right now, just ate an apple a day for 90 days, I give you 90 days. After 90 days, it becomes something you do. And when you keep commitments to yourself, you feel better. And it's so easy, you can't fail. So you're starting to feel better. Now you're eating an apple a day. The next 90 days, you're walking around the block. The next 90 days, you're reading. The next 90 days, you're saving $1. Whatever it is, if all you did was change one simple thing every 90 days, in 5 years, you have 20 powerful, positive habits leading you in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's a good number. I had a coach a few years ago, and he said, "Don't overpopulate your to-do list. Do 3 meaningful things a day," which sounds like not a lot. But if you do 3 things a day times 7 times 52, you've done a lot of good things after 1 year. But they're intentional, they're meaningful, they're contributing to getting you to where you want to go, as opposed to hustling, right?
Well, it's a compound effect. Yeah, definitely.
So how do we stay rooted in identity, especially in a world that constantly tells us to perform and to hustle or compare?
Yeah. So I can tell you when I always tell myself that whenever I compare or compete, I've lost my connection because nobody's keeping score. Right. So and I'm competitive. So whenever I'm competitive or whenever I go on social media and I think someone's doing better than me, I know that I'm here to stay in my lane. So if I can work, do those 3 meaningful things, if I could eat healthy, if I could get my work done, and and I just keep it minding my own energy. If I can answer that question at the end of the day, I feel satisfied and I feel good about what I achieved today. It's not about what anybody else thinks. So it's really removing those barriers. And for me, it's realizing that whenever I go there, because I go there, it's like, Michele, you're off balance. So it's almost like you're driving down the road. So when you're in alignment, right, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, it could be when you're dancing or playing tennis or running or even working. When you're in that flow state, everything feels good. And it's like driving a car really fast with good alignment. The minute you hit those rumble strips, you're like, that's the universe saying, whoa, you just went off track. You're not in alignment anymore. So that's the gentle reminder to say, okay, what was I thinking? What was I focused on? Oh, I saw, this person just, won an award, or this person got a promotion. Do you want a promotion, Michele? Do you want a reward? Maybe. Well, then you have to do something about it. So it's that mental conversation that happens after you realize you've hit the emotional, what I call the emotional rumble strips.
And something has to be loud enough to make you act, right? Yeah. So that leads me to the next question, because as you know, we're all about getting in my perspective, your financial house in
Yeah.
order, but there's other stuff, right? For you, what does it mean to personally have your house in order, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, for me, originally it was my health, right? My physical health, eating right, working out, and then it was relationships and communication. Then it was my spirituality. And now, then it was my finances. And, really looking at what I was doing. And there's a great book that really helped me years ago by it was Barbara Stanley. She's now Barbara Husson, but she wrote a book called Prince Charming Isn't Coming. And I love the book because she was the daughter of H&R Block, which is a famous accounting firm here. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
global.
we have here. His
Yeah. Okay. So she was the daughter of H&R Block, and I'm going to tell her story really quick because it's so fabulous. So at her 21st birthday, she was like, they were like, here's your trust fund. Here's your 21 roses. Have a nice life. So her father never taught her how to handle money. Then her husband, so she just gave it to her husband, got married, gave it to her husband. Then he gambled most of it away, and then he divorced her. Then she gave it to her accountant. And then finally she realized, I have to be the one to look at my finances. And I've read that book, and I've read all her books. She's coached me personally, but it's really that response. Nobody's coming to do this for me. I have to look at my finances. I have to make sure my financial house is in order. I have a wonderful husband, and we do our planning together, but also not. And I think many women, it pains me to know the number of people that they don't know what their numbers are or don't know where they're going. So I think it's having goals, and then literally get it, and then looking, even when it's painful to look. But once you look and once you get it in order, it starts to, for me, it started to be fun because I was like, oh, I'm doing good. And then the more you looked at it and the more you get more momentum around going in the direction you want.
Yeah, no, and it's it's funny when we have meetings. Very often, women say, "Can I ask a dumb question? Can I ask a silly question?" I'm like, "They're not silly questions. These are just
Yeah.
questions you've never had before, right?" And I wasn't born knowing what I know now, and it's just by doing it and repetitively and constantly, and first for myself and my clients and so on, that I'm very, very well versed in what I do. But I try to convey the message that just because you haven't done it doesn't mean you can't learn it. And it's so important. I just if I had a magic wand, I would like to like throw sprinkles on the planet and tell people how important it is to really under and women and men, not just
Yeah.
women and men, to understand what you're doing and keep it clear and ask the right questions, because so many people make financial decisions without a plan and without asking or thinking long-term implications. So sometimes they have super complex structures that untangling becomes impossible or incredibly cumbersome. Or you have, the spouse that says, no, 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 my husband deals with that. Just
Right.
I want nothing to do with that. And then something happens to the husband, and then there's a mess. And that was my story, right? And I love to think that I'm special, but there are a lot of like me
Mm.
that parents didn't have a plan, or investing in things that you don't understand.
Yeah, there's two things you said. One, my dad just passed away a year and a half ago, and I didn't know that he took care of my mom, and I didn't even know that you had to, for her to keep getting his pension, he had to take less while he was alive. And I thought, thank God he did that and he knew it. But the other thing you said that prompted me is when I used to work I had a financial advisor years ago, and I would say to her, speak to me like I'm in second grade. But I think it takes confidence and a good relationship with your financial planner to say that. Otherwise, you're afraid you're going to look stupid. So, and she would say things. I'm like, I don't understand. Talk to me like I'm in second grade. Put this in the simplest terms so I can wrap my brain around it. And for me, I think with money, I'm not a math person. It was my worst subject, and money. And I really had to get comfortable not knowing and being okay saying, I don't understand. Explain it to me a different way.
Yeah, and I think that's our job as advisors, right? My job as an advisor is not to tell people what to do, because I think that's an easy out for people. You told me to. I'm like, no, no. My job is to understand what is it that you want to do, what's important for your family, what are the values, where do you want to go, how do you want to see this grow or shrink or pass, and then reverse engineer it, right? Not just because otherwise they're living my values or they're living
Mm.
my thoughts, and it's not going to work for them because as much as I we might live similar lives, we're not the same person.
And I think that comfort level is important. I think the media just says that, all they do is scare us, right? We're going to get sick and we're going to die and not have enough money. So it's really, like you said, backing into the numbers, and none of us really know how long we're going to need our money, right? Now we don't know how long we're going to live, right? Be on this plane. But the planning is what gives you the confidence. And for me, the spiritual realm also, has been very helpful in the trusting, because I've been through a divorce and had no money and lost, just been in a mess of financial mess. But even in my lowest financial point, like people took care of me. People helped me. A friend gave me money. I remember I opened a greeting card and like $500 fell out. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. So even, back in the day when I had no money, the people that came to help me, to support me, were there. So I think that gave me a little bit more grounding to trust. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know I can handle it. I think that's the difference.
So that, you know what? It's very interesting. I recently wrote an article for one of the family office magazines in Canada about the fear of divorce for financial reasons, right? And I find, I mean, I don't want to generalize, but there are two camps: the ones that stay married, miserably married, because they know that they're going to be financially destroyed, or the ones that are so miserable that they say, I don't know how this is going to work out, but we'll figure it out, and they jump.
I jumped. And I didn't take, it's a long story, but he was very possessive of his money and he felt it was his and da da da. So I walked away I didn't fight. Let's put it that way. We came up with a number. We both agreed on it. It was a lot less than, I was legally could have taken. But I walked away with a deep knowing that I would be okay. And now we're talking many years later, I am okay, made it all up and then some. But the fear of, looking back, maybe I should have went for more, but it all worked out in the end. So I think, to me, my whole thing is happiness, and to be miserable and have money is worthless than to, I'd rather be camping on the beach with, no money and happy than, in a mansion and be miserable.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And it's believing in yourself. You don't know how, but you know you've got it.
Yeah, I remember every day just breathing, saying, Michele, your goal is to get through the day. Get through the day. Because I was such a goal setter before the divorce. And then it was like, I can't even think straight. But take a breath, take another step and believe in yourself.
Yeah, no, that's totally. And let's talk about goals, because I too used to set, I mean, I have a good idea of where I want to be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But I approach the concept of goal setting very differently now, because things go fast and sometimes they don't go as planned. How do you talk to your clients about setting goals and what comes after?
Yeah. So for me, there's two goals. I used to teach, goal setting. It was one of my first careers. I still do, but so I got very like, writing down all these goals and financial goals and career goals and health goals. And I was writing them all down, and then I accomplished a lot of them, but then they became very habitual. So once it becomes habit, it's because there's, goal, and I got good at it. I then realized so I wrote the book on habits, right? Happiness is a habit. And it was about doing something for yourself almost every day, mentally, physically, spiritually, or emotionally, that fed you. And when you do that, you feel better. And then once I started doing that on a regular basis, I started having what I called magic carpet days, where everything clicked, right? The Uber driver was great. The plane was early. I got upgraded, the client was happy. And I was like, what is happening? And then I realized that powerful alignment. So my goal then became to be in alignment, and then the other outcomes come. But if I'm, again, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally aligned, I'm stronger than if I'm all over the place, right? If I'm mentally here and physically here, that's weak. But when everything's aligned, you think of that alignment and that strength. So I'm not there every day. Believe me, I had a major meltdown last week that I wrote about on social media, but I'm there more often than not. And it's teaching people that they can get there too.
And we're human, and if it goes
Yes.
well, then it sinks and then it goes up again. And it's a journey, right? So, okay, before we wrap up, I like to close with a rapid fire round.
Okay.
So, just few quick questions, whatever comes to mind first. You have no idea what's coming your way.
I don't. Let's go.
Okay, let's do this. So, what's the one truth that's changed your life?
I always have more power than I think.
Okay. What's a book or idea that unlocked something big for you?
Oh my God, so many, but I look at my shelf. I keep copies of Og Mandino's The Greatest Miracle in the World, not The Greatest Salesman, which is more popular, but The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino says to, let me see if I can remember, proclaim your rarity, do everything with love, go another mile, and I'm missing one. It had these 4 edicts at the end, which just changed my life.
Okay, that's a good one. I'll check that one out.
Yeah, and it's short too.
What's something you wish more people gave themselves permission to do?
Oh my gosh, just stay in your lane, mind your own backyard, and you'll be way happier than worrying about what everybody else is doing.
And what's the one small habit, one that you've done or you recommend that has had the biggest impact?
Reading books. I can't stop reading, and that knowledge, like you said, I might not know how to do it now, but I will learn. And there's a book or a YouTube video or podcast to teach me. So that self-education has brought me far.
I find curiosity, right? Curiosity is the more time goes by, not that the more we age, the more time goes by.
I like it.
I realize that at some point we stop playing. And it's when you're going back to playing and being curious and being creative and not told what to do. And it's not that I'm promoting anarchy. Okay, that's for sure not the case. But it's that when you stop enjoying something, that's when you're not aligned. And when you're enjoying and it works for you, that's when things go well.
Yes, it's a feeling. You feel it. Yeah.
Now, when you're little and you're just fed and taken everywhere, it's all great. And as long as you don't do something terribly bad, you're fine. I mean, my mother never put my bike in the living room, but whatever.
I love it. We've gotten way too serious, I believe. So I think I love the playful and curious.
I still think that the bike belongs in the living room.
It's your choice.
But she had these little ceramic thingies. I promised myself I would never own any of those little fellows. They were a fortune. This is like German or I don't know what kind of ceramic, these little guys. And I don't know what got in my head that I decided that it was a great idea to ride my bike in the living room. And I might have executed a few of those.
Oh, so you actually, when you were a child, rode. I'm thinking you're having like a Peloton in your living room. You actually rode your bicycle through the living room. I misunderstood.
No. I had some ideas when I was little, but yeah, she did not. That one was not approved.
That makes more sense now.
So now the only bike you get is a Peloton. Michele, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for bringing so much clarity and joy and depth and honestly hope and compassion to this conversation. Whether it's through your coaching or your message or just how you show up, you're helping other people come home to themselves and finding themselves. And that's really a powerful way to help people get their house in order. I hope more people come across you and have that little push, that moment of vulnerability of saying, there might be a better way. So to everyone listening, if you're feeling out of alignment, disconnected from your purpose, or just ready to move from burnout to breakthrough, I hope that this episode is your invitation to pause and reflect. Your identity isn't something to earn. It's something to remember. So we'll see you next time on Get Your House in Order. Thank you very much.
Thank you.